Falling down on implementation is actually one of the biggest failings in regulation and policy making. So often we focus on the need to do something to address a problem that we tend to forget about making sure that having announced what we're going to do, we actually put it in place effectively.
Implementation is critical. Doesn't matter how well designed the policy itself is, if the implementation isn't well done, good policy can still fail. Good implementation won't save bad policy, but you really need both to be effective.
Allied with what I've just been saying is the need to have an implementation policy that is sensible, that's measured, that is fit for purpose, that is proportionate. So our implementation, for example, of the new Telecommunications Consumer Protection Code, the TCP code, which followed on from our Reconnecting the Customer public inquiry, took 3 years to implement. It meant that the industry had time to absorb it, to phase it, and not be reactive to it. The implementation strategy, in that case, was vital to its, what we're seeing as current success.
Having developed the regulation, identified the preferred option, received approval from your minister, and if it's a regulation change or a change to an act, the relevant parliamentary approvals, that's really only the beginning of a journey. It's very important to have a comprehensive implementation strategy in making any regulatory change work. And that's often an area that regulators spend too little time thinking. They're too focused on making sure the right option is approved, but the implementation is just as important. For example, we're changing our regulations as to how we impose charges on business to a way that we believe will significantly reduce red tape, significantly reduce the need, for example, for small businesses to go and get an accountant to separately look at their books and provide data on how many products that have sold in a particular year and in what categories. Over the last few weeks and months, we've been working together with stakeholders on communicating the changes. And this is where groups like industry associations, because they have a mandate to communicate with their member companies, are very important partners in communicating and implementing this change. And they've been tremendously important in sharing the awareness of the changes to our way of collecting charges.
Well, really, I think implementation and planning about how you go about putting policy into practice is very important, and stakeholders should play a very important role as part of that as well. Planning and implementation is very important because once you've actually got your policy proposals, the job is only half done. You need to think about who is going to implement that policy, when they'll implement it by, and how it'll be rolled out in a sensible way so you don't have any transition issues, for example. Stakeholders can be very helpful in that process. They can tell you what timeframes are realistic to try and put changes in place. And they can also assist you in making decisions about how best to deliver on the policy objective that you want to achieve. Whether, for example, you look at a total change in computer systems or whether that's phased in over time.